All right, look, this has to deal with Signalgate and all these dumb people who were clearly part of this little travesty in which the Yemen bombing war plans were leaked out to a journalist. Now, there are many avenues of approach to looking at this, but it's very clear that there are people like Mike Waltz, or either that. How else can we say it? How else should we bring it up here? But also so many people who are involved in the Trump administration who pretty much made an oopsie in real time. So I first want to acknowledge this part right here because National Security Advisor Mike Waltz forgot to set his Venmo to private, revealing a contact list of full journalists, including Griff Jenkins, Brian Cadme of Fox News, Leland Vilvert of News Nation, Breonna Keller of CNN, Lauren Pekoff of MSNBC, and more. So the thing is, what I want to point out here is it's either he did this on purpose, which again, no, I don't think that's the case, or he accidentally added somebody to the Signal chat that should not have been there in the first place. Now, is this earth-shattering news? Yes and no. First of all, it's showing that, yes, human error plays a part of this, but also, my goodness, this shows that there's a real lack of accountability. These people are only just people after all, but here, shout out to Hotspot who was able to pull out this story here. Let's go ahead and play this because here's the list of people. And yet there is no audio here, or music or anything in here. But these are individual. This is again, Mike Waltz, Venmo, not set to private. This is it. It's all there. All there. All there. And Robbie Burns, Hegseth, and Waltz seem like total morons. If anything, people need to know just how incompetent these two individuals are. Now, to what I would say to the Trump administration is, while he is going to bat for his team, I would acknowledge this right here. Clearly, they made something that is, clearly a resigning effect. They would have to resign immediately. And there are people whose heads are going to have to roll for this because as the story continues to evolve and develop, it's abundantly clear that there is so much more to this. So I want to pull up this video. Shout out to Hotspot and shout out to Nico House, good friend of the show.
The drama of Signalgate continued to unfold as Jeff Goldberg in The Atlantic dropped more texts from the group chat from Trump's administration that were passed right before the attacks on Yemen. So just to get you guys caught up, Jeff Goldberg, weeks after being added to a Signal group chat by the Trump administration where they were discussing an attack on Yemen, released a bunch of texts and told the world that he was accidentally added to this group chat. And instead of telling people at the time, he waited until after the United States attacked Yemen. And instead of being rewarded for basically dry snitching on himself to the White House staff, he was actually lambasted by the Trump administration, and the Trump administration officials involved in the group chat continuously denied sharing the sensitive information. Now, based on the texts that were already available the other day, we already knew that there was sensitive information shared. Now, in this new article, Jeff Goldberg actually shows more details about just how sensitive and specific that information ahead of the Yemen attack actually was. But once again, like a good little imperialist lapdog, this man, Jeff Goldberg, called the White House, who had just gotten done roasting him and criticizing him and attacking him for the last 48 hours, is incredulous, just to make sure that it was okay that he released the rest of those texts. So just to reiterate before we get into the important stuff here, Jeff Goldberg is a punk bitch and is not a real journalist. He's just a stenographer. He's just doing what the empire tells him to do while simultaneously just trying to seek attention. So
he's following the orders. And the thing is, there's more to this. And I want to just pull up because while we continue, I want to continue with the rest of what Nico House is saying. But the CIA director, John Ratcliffe, did unleash and rage out at Democrat Representative Jimmy Gomez during a shouting match after Gomez suggested that Pete Hegseth was drunk in the Signal chat. Okay, now I think it's important about really calling in for accountability. Now, of course, what Democrat Representative Jimmy Gomez is stating here is clearly just his own opinion. All right, it's his own opinion, but I love a good shouting match between people, and I think this is funny because Signalgate, it's a thing now.
That a lot of people want to talk to is Secretary of Defense Hegseth. And a lot of questions were brought up regarding his drinking habits in his confirmation hearing. To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Oh, Tulsi. This is not on your bingo card. You know, here's the thing. I don't give advice to people, but I do remember saying on my show, like, the best thing that RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard could do is not be part of the Trump administration. Again, you know, it's fine. It is what it is, whatever. You know, people make choices. They got to live with them now.
Director Radcliffe, same question. Yes or no?
You know, no, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you want to. No, I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. You want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't want to focus on the good work that the CIA is doing.
Good work. Hey, folks, everybody. The CIA does good work. Let's have democracy in the chat. Do they do good work? Type 1 for yes, Kit. Just be quiet and follow the orders. Type 2. Dude, good work, man. Hang on, man. I think if we say anything, our handlers will come after us. Don't ask the CIA about El Chapo. Don't ask them about El Chapo.
That the intelligence community.
Director, I reclaim my time. Director, I reclaim my time.
Fight.
Huge respect for the CIA. Huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of every American, right? He stood in front of a podium in Europe holding a drink. So, of course, we want to know if his performance is compromised. If people were asking if the General Austin was compromised because of a heart issue.
Was his performance compromised because of a successful strike?
Mr. I bring my
You want to know? You want to talk about accepting responsibility? Do you think you should accept responsibility for a successful strike to make Americans safer? You want to focus on?
I reclaim my time. So here's the thing. This is serious. As somebody, we've been briefed in this committee about using Signal. One of the things they basically said, the most secure phone call.
Oh, my God. You know, here's where my audience, you're just too brutal. Teddy G, the eviscerations will continue until morale improves. Yes, exactly. Exactly, indeed. The eviscerations shall continue on.
If anyone dares try to test my mental confidence, I will eviscerate every single person with my intelligence right now.
That's right. That's right, indeed.
Least secure text messaging. And we know that your people are Russians, Chinese are on your phone.
Gentleman's time's expired. Gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to give the director the ability to respond without being interrupted by his questioner.
I appreciate that, Congressman. I guess, you know, just a general reflection here again that for the last 2 days, members of the intelligence community have been asking questions about a Signal messaging group and not asking questions from Democrats either in the Senate or the House.
Also, shout out to Scott Tuff 14, first Rumble rant of the day. Thank you so much for that Rumble rant. We do appreciate all super chats and patron supporters and Rumble rants. First of all, you say the real news here is the government is using public apps rather than encrypted software to communicate. WTF? Exactly. Like, look, I mean, Hollywood and everything that I've seen in literature and fiction made it always seem like they're using encrypted machinery, but no, they're just using public stuff. Like, what's wrong with you people? I guess everything isn't as high tech and sleek as we thought it was.
On China, Russia, Iran, and the real threats that are going on to the United States. And you can say that you care about the good work that agencies are doing like the CIA and that you care about 140 stars on the wall. But no one's asked me about my second day on the job here, where I lit the fuse that led to a foreign government participating with us to
Mastermind Hour, one of our moderators, again, with the bulldog truth right here. It's not the first time they mistook their Signal account for their Tinder account. Oh, no.
capture one of the senior planners of the Abbey bombing that killed 13 Americans. And in the process, we worked with a government that previously hadn't, that hadn't cooperated with us on counterterrorism matters. Or the fact no one has focused on that within an hour of that taking place, I was on the phone with Director Patel, and a few hours later with Attorney General Bondi, working together, the IC and the FBI working together to bring this person home in less than a week. Unprecedented success for the intelligence community and the law enforcement community. Exactly representative of the kind of work that we should be doing and the kind of work that an oversight committee should be asking about. But instead, we're getting questions about whether or not someone has drinking habits. And
I don't know. Listen, addiction is a very serious thing, but hold on. From the Secretary of Defense himself, nobody's texting war plans, guys.
Nobody's texting war plans.
I don't know. Say that again.
Nobody's texting war plans. Well, I noticed this morning out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. You know who sees war plans? I see them every single day. I looked at them this morning. I looked at attack plans this morning. You know who does attack plans and war plans? Men like that admiral right there, Paparo for the Indo-Pacific, or Eric Kurilla, our general in CENTCOM. They do attack plans and war plans. And thank God we have those leaders who do it and do it well, and our enemies know it. My job, as it said atop of that, everybody's seen it now, team update, is to provide updates in real time. General updates in real time, keep everybody informed. That's what I did. That's my job. The war fighters will take the fight to the enemy, and I love what they do. And with President Trump's leadership, our enemies are on notice. We will have peace through strength, and we'll keep putting our troops first.
But it doesn't add up, man. Because here's the thing, the Signal war plans leak. The bombing people's okay. Talking about it apparently is not. That's the thing. We were for that one moment, for this one moment in time, we all became that little invisible entity in the war room for everybody to see. And shout out once again to Hotspot right here.
And first of all, Signal has been an approved app for government use. It's an encrypted app. And as I said, it's the most safe and efficient way of communicating, especially when people can't be in a skiff or inside a room physically together. I think as the president said yesterday, he wishes that everybody could be in the room. And it's our goal to ensure that everybody can be. But again, no classified information was discussed in this chat. And anytime classified information is discussed amongst high-level officials across this administration, secure lines of communication are used, including, by the way, our special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who I understand the Wall Street Journal erroneously reported that he was on this Signal chat on a personal device while in Moscow. That is absolutely false. And first of all, Signal has been in a
yes. We get it. It's an approved thing. But what the problem is that a mistake was happened, and the American people were given a real insight in regards towards military actions that were going to happen in Yemen. And what's fascinating to point out that even our good friend Nico House, our good colleague and friend, who was able to point out that, wait a minute, hold up. You had the vice president even showing doubts of whether or not we should be engaging in these kind of military actions, whether or not we should be doing this, whether or not this is in our best interest as a nation, a country, a people. And yet here we are right now, seeing this whole thing crash out and blow up before our faces. And I think a lot of people need to pay attention to how this story will develop, and of course, get ready for other future conflicts. Will they be long-standing wars? Give or take. But will there be more bombings in the Middle East? It looks like that's going to be the problem right now. In Yemen, in Syria, in Lebanon. Iran, maybe? Who knows? But we have our lawmakers who have just been caught because of one dumb mistake. One foolish action. Let's continue on with more from Nico House.
So let's get that out the way. You see, the most important information that the public should consider to be problematic in the release of these texts isn't the fact that the attacks were coordinated and they knew the destination and they were talking about the confirmation of the attack. Yeah, that's important. Sensitive information. Yeah, Goldberg was right. Blah, 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 blah. That's not really the problem, though. No, the problem is that people like Hegseth and other members of Trump's administration openly admit that attacking Yemen was not in the best interest of the United States and that there would be a messaging issue. Americans would not be willing to accept that we are randomly bombing a country and there are no material interests immediately at stake for the United States. So they had to come up with a way to sell the killing of innocent Yemeni civilians. So, former Fox News contributor in true propagandist fashion suggests that they framed the messaging around Biden's failures and the Houthis being funded by Iran. And that's why we should attack Yemen. Guys, Hegseth literally admits this isn't even about the Houthis. He says it's about freedom of navigation. But what he really is saying is it's about freedom of navigation that is being impeded because of the genocide happening in Gaza because of Israel. But you can't use that in your messaging when the majority of the country, including MAGA, are against the genocide happening in Gaza. So they came up with a plan to sell you guys a lie and say that this is happening because the Houthis are terrorists that are being funded by Iran and we're trying to protect American interests. When all of them were in a group chat where they almost unanimously acknowledge this actually has no immediate benefit for the United States. They admit that this has nothing to do with Iran. It had nothing to do with Iran, but they fearmonger using anything that could possibly be funded by Iran to justify calling another group terrorist in order to get the American people on their side when they attack any particular group, in this case being the Houthis. And the result, at least 25 civilians, including 4 children, were killed in Yemen by the bombings of the United States. So yeah, although Goldberg is a coward and these messages should have been released weeks ago, what we are learning from these messages is that there is a level of moral bankruptcy happening behind the scenes that is particularly sinister. They are coming up with inventive ways to lie to you and fearmonger.
And that's the truth of it. And that's something we've been saying a long time here at Hardlands Media. You know, there's a whole system of people hiding behind the walls, the real truth. How do they really feel about these issues? You know, I've always gave this warning that Washington, D.C., very similar to Hollywood, is one big cesspool. But also, as a final note to this, Mike Walt's Venmo is public, as we addressed it before, and it's full of journalists. So this week, The Atlantic published a stunning article on a group Signal chat that included the highest-ranking officials in the U.S. military and intelligence community coordinating and executing a bombing campaign against the Houthis in Yemen. Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic and author of the article, was tagged into the chat by National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, a mistake that afforded the EIC a front row seat to officials as high up as the Secretary of Defense and the Vice President debating the decision. Once the attack plans for Yemen were revealed, Goldberg chose to remove himself from the group chat, and before reversing course after public backlash, he censored parts of the conversation on national security grounds. Okay, well, I mean, I wish, he had a golden opportunity, but he's a professional stenographer, I guess. Who knows? In a phone interview Tuesday with NBC News, President Trump appeared to defend his national security advisor, telling the press Michael Waltz has learned a lesson and he's a good man, adding that it was one of Michael's people on the phone, a staffer, had his number on there. Whether Waltz has learned his lesson seems to be more of an open question, especially given the prospect discovery that his personal Venmo account remains public with some 300 friends actively listed on his profile. And while Goldberg doesn't appear in Waltz's Venmo contact list, several other journalists do as well. So they're all in there. They're all in there. That's it. They're all in there. Like, again, it's all one big club, and all of these journalists and people in corporate, they know each other. They are friends with each other. They are buddies with each other. They are high five best friends. This is an example of absolute stupidity, ignorance, and failure at the highest order. And I, for one, can only sit back, relax, and say, hey, look, they're talking about attack plans in Yemen. That means any other future military actions. I want everyone to remember this moment in the Signalgate release, and just always ask, well, gee, since we bombed this region here, or this country here, or this territory here, what was being said behind the scenes?